Warning, this video contains spoilers for Star Trek Discovery Season 1 and Star Trek Discovery Season 2. Hey everybody, Ketwalski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Star Trek Discovery Discussions videos. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Season 2, Episode 10 of Discovery, titled The Red Angel. Now, I know I've already done a full review on this video, but from the comments and the emails and the private messages I've received from a few of you guys and gals, it seems as though you guys thought I was being a little bit too harsh with this episode and maybe not being really fair and balanced as you've come to expect from my other reviews. So I decided to give it another watch through and actually jotted down some physical notes during it to see if my initial feelings and thoughts were still valid, and it turns out that most of them are, but I do have two big retractions and a few other things that I wanted to go ahead and address with you guys that I did not put in my initial review. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you guys and gals a little bit about something that kind of struck a chord with me after I posted up this review video for episode 10, and a few of you were kind of trying to say that I'm not a fan of Discovery or that I'm just a hater and that I've never been a fan and all these other things that I was getting in private messages and on YouTube comments. Some of them telling me to go kill myself, which seems to be the norm. I don't know why I keep getting told that. And I wanted to talk to you guys and gals about an issue I think that occurs on YouTube rather frequently. So when you have a YouTube channel as a content creator, your goal is to try to provide a certain type of content to an audience, and then they, as the viewer and the audience, come to expect that content from you. When you produce content that they do not agree with or they do not expect, there is some negative backlash to that. So it is a slippery slope, I think, in some cases, to encourage content creators not to be as authentic as they may want to be in order to appease their fans, to increase their exposure, to get more subscribers, to get more money, to get more views, whatever it is that they want from their YouTube channel. And it is dangerous. I do understand that. As someone who prides themselves on running a channel that is as middle of the road as I could possibly make it, I try to be as authentic to you, the viewer, with my own feelings and thoughts and emotions about what's going on, specifically about Star Trek Discovery. I try to be as super authentic as I possibly can be. I want people to say, that Ketwalski channel, yeah, he calls it like he sees it, and it's a fair, balanced review and analysis and reaction to what's happening on Star Trek Discovery. He's not too much far to the side of hatred, and he's not too far to the side of loving it no matter what. And that is a tough brand to try to sell, because I get beat up by both parties, both people who hate it a lot and people who love it a lot, depending on the way that I react to a certain episode or say a certain thing. So it's a frustrating thing, and it's a slippery slope for some people, and even for myself, where I wonder to myself, why am I doing this? Why don't I just go full regalian and just say how much I love it and ignore all the bad things about Discovery so that I can at least stop getting beat up by one group? Again, like, for example, if I made a bunch of videos talking about how much I hated Brie Larson and that I thought Captain Marvel was going to be terrible, and then I went and saw the movie, and I liked Brie Larson and I liked Captain Marvel, I would be hard-pressed to make a video about that and release it to my audience. My audience has come to expect me to say that I hate this show or this movie and this actress, and to do something so off-brand would have negative reactions from my viewership, which could reduce sub counts, get a lot of dislikes, affect my ability to get it picked up by the YouTube algorithm, all sorts of things. So it's kind of pressures people into being, I want to say not authentic or disingenuous, but it pressures people to keep up a certain type of message and a certain type of product, regardless of how they feel, because they're trying to gain that exposure and they're trying to make their channel successful. We're all hustling here. We're all trying to make our channels successful. And that's the goal. We want to be successful at YouTube. We want to entertain people, get our message out, and interact with other fans and other YouTubers. That's what we're doing here. And to release a video that could negatively impact my ability to do that seems counterproductive. But I would do that because that's just how I feel. And maybe that's why it's taken me like 3 years to get to 10,000 subscribers. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't know how else to put that. This channel is about being authentic with all of you, with how I feel. And I try to be as fair and balanced. If I like something, I'm going to say I like it. If I hate it, I'm going to say that I hate it. And if for you, that makes you think that I am not a fan of Star Trek Discovery, or that I am not a true Trek fan because I like Star Trek Discovery, maybe this isn't the channel for you, but I'm going to continue to be as authentic as I possibly can. And I'm sorry if that upsets you guys and gals, or if that disappoints you in some regards, but I'm not going to try to placate one or the other group that is so far to the extreme, which I don't like that either. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to continue to be as fair and balanced as I possibly can. Okay, so we're going to get to the episode now. Sorry about all that stuff. I did want to address it. So let's get into the episode. So the funeral scene was pretty good. I actually really liked it. I thought the speeches were short, but they were very good and well written. I like the fact that they put Ariam inside of the torpedo tube type looking thing that harkens back to Wrath of Khan. I like the flag folding thing. I thought that was kind of cool. And also, we know for a fact that Doug Jones really did sing that weird Kelpian song. He really sung it. I don't know if he sung it on set or if they probably got him in the studio afterwards, but he really did sing that. So I thought that was really cool too. I also thought this was a really cool edit.
Let's start with everything we know.
And I think that edit starts the slow burn of Burnham's, I guess, emotional state throughout the entire episode. But we'll get to that at the end here during one of my retractions. I thought that Spock's funny share with the group during the medical sequence where he's basically saying, yeah, Michael, she's always taking over responsibilities that don't really apply to her. I thought that was funny. And I also thought it was kind of interesting that the writers of the show are taking a criticism of Michael Burnham's character, which is that she's always the center of attention and that she's a Mary Sue, and making it a character flaw, and that she's always trying to put herself into situations that don't necessarily involve her. And I think that's kind of an interesting way of going about that. It's kind of addressing some of the issues while kind of putting hanging a candlelight onto the hanging a lantern onto the situation, and also still playing up the fact that she's the main character and going to continue to do that, but it's more of like we're self-aware. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to kind of go about that and address one of the bigger complaints about Star Trek Discovery. Another thing I forgot to mention, and I can't believe I didn't say this because I noticed it immediately because I keep track of all these little things, but the blonde officer, Lieutenant Nelson, that comes off the elevator at the end and enters the bridge and takes Ariam's station is the original actress that played Ariam. I thought that was a nice touch. She's been in a couple of different episodes. I want to say 2 other episodes where she's been kind of in the background doing different things. So it's interesting that they're bringing her back to take Ariam's position. I don't know what the behind-the-scenes situation is with that or why they decided to go with her as a regular human in this situation, but I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool, though. Okay, so the next thing is going to be the big retraction from my actual review, and that was the fight between Michael Burnham and Captain Leland. And that all has to do with a simple line that I missed during the first few watchings of this episode, which is this one here.
You were there because of me. Your parents were killed there because of me.
So when he says this, in my mind, he's telling the audience that he feels guilty over the death of Michael Burnham's parents. Like, he genuinely feels that way. That's the way it comes off to me. So he's saying, it's my fault. I am the one that caused it. He's feeling guilty over it. Now, Burnham then blames Leland for that. I still stand by that. She unnecessarily puts it all onto Leland, but Leland is also unnecessarily putting it all onto himself as well. When in reality, it was just a mission. It was just a mission that went bad. And maybe Michael's parents had something to do with the fact that they died. Maybe they were being careless themselves. Maybe they shouldn't have put their daughter in harm's way by keeping her next to a planet that's going to have a supernova next to their top secret time traveling device. Maybe they should have had her someplace else. But I do think that it's just something that happened, and there's really nothing that anyone could have really done. Yeah, he could have tried to maybe make it so that the Klingons couldn't track them or make it harder for them to track them. Whatever it is, it was a mission that went south, ultimately. Leland didn't force them to join Section 31 as far as we know, and from what he told us, they are the ones who wanted to build the suit and then try to prove the fact that this theory was correct about the whole time travel thing. So it just seems like it was just an unfortunate situation, and really it's nobody's real fault, and I thought it added a lot of depth to Leland's character by him essentially having guilt over being probably responsible for their security and ultimately failing, and then not really taking care of their daughter, as far as we know, in any real shape or form. He probably just dropped her off at some orphanage and went on about his business. And maybe he feels guilty about that too, and maybe we'll find out more about that later. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and that did change the dynamic of that particular scene altogether for me. So I do retract that. That is something I shouldn't have zeroed in on too much, and that was actually a positive scene in my opinion. Okay, so the next thing is kind of just a quick edit. I would take the Commander non-sequence and put it somewhere towards the end of the episode. I do believe that based off of that way that elevator to the conference room cut that happened right at the beginning of the episode, it was trying to convey to the audience that all of these things are constantly on Michael's mind, and she's being emotionally drained and perpetually having all of these things happen to her. So when she meets with Nan in the corridor, I don't think she was being an asshole when she was like, hey, I think it was just with everything else going on in her mind at that moment, she did not want to have that conversation. She knew that she was going to have that conversation with Nan at some point, but I don't think she wanted to have it right at that moment, which is why she kind of acted kind of negatively. So to me, I would have put it towards the end of the episode to really show off that underlying problem, which is that Michael's just essentially exhausted, emotionally drained from what's going on in the episodes. Okay, so the other really big thing that I criticized this episode for was the ticking clock. And a lot of you tried to argue against that it wasn't, in fact, that far-fetched and that it made perfect sense. And I just want to go ahead and make a few quick points onto that. Number one, the ticking clock was fabricated because they felt that there was a potential that the control AI from the future could travel back in time utilizing the micro wormholes that the Red Angel was utilizing. When in fact, that wasn't the case. That probe that came back that affected Arium and the present day control AI came back as the probe Discovery sent through the tear in spacetime that appeared over Kaminar. It did not have anything to do, as far as we know, with the micro wormhole things, the giant red bursts that the Red Angel, Michael's mom, is using to get back and forth. It had nothing to do with that. Another thing is, as far as we know, our team of Discovery believes that this control AI becomes sentient sometime far in the future. And at this point, the control AI is hiding out someplace because if they're assuming that it's still around, it's hiding out someplace because it destroyed the control AI station and wiped Arium's mind, and they are essentially hunting for it. So there is no real rush to stop the Red Angel at this point because even present day control is not in a position to infect every single system in the Federation and destroy all sentient life. It's not in a position. We've shown that it'll happen in the future. They could maybe assume that it could happen at any point in time, whatever it is, but there's no reason to assume it would happen so suddenly that they didn't have time to try to come up with another idea for trying to lure in the Red Angel. There's no reason for them to feel that way. And something else that occurred to me while I was watching this particular playthrough again was that, as far as we know, we've kind of stopped the threat of the control AI in the future because we destroyed control, and I assume they dismantled it from all the Section 31 ships, and we know from the episode that it's still dormant in some cases, but they don't know that for sure. But even if they didn't know that for sure, it's kind of not really a big deal. At this point, the Discovery believes that they have changed the future and that it's not going to play out the same. So they could have already solved the Red Angel's mission, and putting Burnham in harm's way could have been a really bad idea because the Red Angel may have taken off the suit and said, well, geez, I saved the future and that's it. I've done it. And they're assuming that the mission is not over yet, which I think is a bad assumption based off of the information provided inside of the show at this point. Anyways, guys and gals, that wraps up this kind of part 2 of my episode 10 review. I know that I got a little emotional and kind of dragged down a bit at the beginning, so I apologize for those of you that don't really care about that stuff. But ultimately, I think a lot of the complaints I still have with this episode are holding up. I do retract again those 2 things, and I did call out all of the cool things that you guys and gals enjoyed in the episode, and I hope that you continue to watch the channel and watch my reviews. I'm going to try to keep them, again, as authentic as possible. If I love it, I'm going to tell you. If I hate it, I'm going to tell you that too. So, anyways, throw up some comments down below. Tell me what you think about my retractions here. Do you agree with that, or do you also still disagree that the ticking clock was actually something that should have happened in this episode? I'm curious to hear what you guys and gals think. Anyways, I will catch all of you next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies.